Hello and welcome back to the radio room. We're going to revisit the FT-757 that we looked at in the previous video. If you'll recall, it was pretty much deaf, and I'll go ahead and give you a quick example of that here in just a moment. And we're going to see if we can't do something about that. So let's go ahead and turn the radio on. And we got some static. But let me put an S9 signal into it and see what it sounds like in its current state. So we're going to go to low out on our tiny SA. We're going to set a negative 73 dBm output. Negative 73. And let's just go ahead and go to 7 megahertz. That's what the radio turned on to. And let's modulate it with an AM tone with a frequency of 1000 hertz, 1K. So got the RF gain all the way up. RF amp is on. Attenuator is off. Let's see if we can hear the tone. Just barely hear the tone, and it has really no signal level on it. If you recall from the previous video, let me go ahead and turn this off. From the previous video, we are suspecting that it is the fuse bulb that is on the input or on the receive side of the receiver. Well, receive side of the receiver. Of course, it's on the receive side. It's before the preamp, before all the amplifiers. It's basically the signal is coming through the low pass filter and then to the before it gets to the amplifier. There's nothing really getting through there. I did check on this. The low pass filter doesn't really do anything according to the schematic. It's mostly on the output. So basically this just comes straight through the low pass filter board, straight over to the main board, control board, RF board, I'm sorry, and goes straight into the receiving circuitry. And I was saying that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and get it unhooked. I was stating in the previous video that that bulb, and I did some research on it, is really just any old 8 volt, 100 milliamp light bulb. And I didn't really want to vary from that, and I looked around online and I actually found the bulb. There's actually a guy on eBay that sells a bunch of parts for this radio, the 747, and several other Yaesu radios. I believe he's probably got some stuff from possibly with some other brands. He actually has these, so let's open these up, take a look at them, and see if we can solve our problem. Nicely packed. Maybe packed too well for me to get into. See how this box is supposed to open up. Maybe that's the point of this video, trying to get into a very well taped box. Well, that side doesn't open. Does this side open? Maybe. Yep. And some bubble wrap. There's one of our bulbs. And if anybody else there needs to get one of these bulbs, I went ahead and ordered two just in case I broke one or something. If anybody happens to need to look for one of these, very few places that I could find that actually had that specifically for this radio, and he even listed the actual part number. Was W5CIA ham radio and accessories. He does have a website, w5cia.com, and he sells on eBay, so you can find a lot of stuff on there. He's also got a page on eBay. So he's got connectors, parts, boards, grounding supplies, Kenwood tri-band specialists. So that's the only thing I've purchased from him. So far so good. I'll go ahead and let's go ahead and take a look at some stuff here. Let's take a look at this bulb. Not very big. Just a little incandescent light bulb being used as a receiver fuse to keep things from being overloaded. And we'll get that installed in just a moment. We'll go ahead and get the radio flipped over. I've got the bottom cover already removed. And I guess I'll find something to talk about for a few moments because my soldering iron is heating up right now. So let's take a look at what we're getting into. Okay, so right here is where our bulb is, and we're going to be soldering right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and unhook this cable right here. I'm right-handed and I want to come in like this with my soldering iron. So I'm going to get this out of the way so I don't damage this cable. And as I've mentioned before, if you're going to unhook these cables, don't grab it by the cable. There's little ears on there you can grab it by. I just usually use a little pair of needle nose. I just kind of work it back and forth a little bit and pop it out of there. Like I said, don't grab it by the cable. If you pull this end out of here, pretty sure it's going to be next to impossible to try to either A, put it back in there, or I hope you got a salvage radio you can pull it out of, because I'm not sure where you can buy those if you needed to get another one. I'll kind of get this connector out of the way, just so I got a nice clear view of the radio. Trying to make sure that's actually a connector. It might actually be soldered to the board. I think that one's actually soldered to the board, so I don't want to pull on that one though. I thought that was just a connector, so I'll just pull these wires back out of the way and we'll make sure that we get that back over where it's at before we put the radio totally back together. But right here is where we're going to be unsoldering, so we're going to have to be very careful, get in here and just hit these. We don't want to hit this inductor, don't want to hit this inductor. Got a couple of capacitors right here we're going to have to be careful with and watch. I'm going to get my magnifiers on so I got a little bit better view of this. Get my light out of the way. Let me see how the light is here. I don't want that one on. Okay, and I can't quite tell if they wrapped that around it. This is actually mounted on two. See if I can get this in view where you all can see it. Right here and right here are basically just two solder studs that stick up right there, two posts that we have to unwire. So I don't know if they wrapped it around them or if they if it's just kind of tack solder to it. But we're going to get it out of there. Probably just use some tweezers, heat it up and use some tweezers and try to lift each leg off of those solder posts. And we'll probably check this. I just, a curiosity's sake and for the point of the video, I'll probably put an ohms meter across this after we've got it out and take a look at it. So I got sizzle on my sponge, so I'm going to guess that possibly the soldering iron is ready to go. Just cleaned it real good. I'm going to re-tin it, knock the excess off, and then see if we can just lift these off of this post. Okay, so we got two deals going on here now. I did get the that one bulb leg pulled off of there, and I was kind of afraid this was going to do this. As I did that, it transferred enough heat down through that post that when I lifted it, there's two things could have went on here. It could have I could have lifted, when I lifted that leg, the post came up with it. Which either one, it wasn't connected well to begin with and it had a broken solder joint on the other side of the board, or the heat transferred directly down that post and unsoldered the post, and then when I pulled up on this, it pulled that too. So we're actually going to have to end up lifting this board before it's all said and done and resolder that post as well. And I'm suspecting we may have to do the same thing on the other one. But let's go ahead and get it out. And see if, and then we'll get the board out of the way and probably solder the new one in. Okay, so that's got the bulb out, and I was really hoping it wasn't going to do that, but it is what it is. I suspected it might do that because the solder post is soldered to the board as well, and we are putting heat onto that board. So let me get my out here. Looks like y'all can see that. And let's check this bulb once I drop it in the radio. Let's just move this out of the way for a moment. We're gonna have to do some more surgery on it here in a moment anyhow. Was hoping we wouldn't, but you know what? I was already suspecting it was going to happen. Okay, so I'm touching both leads of that bulb. I have no continuity, and just to show that my meter's working right, there's both leads shorted together. 1.8, 1.7 ohms, and nothing. So this bulb is blown, broke. Remember I said before, it either got too big of a signal through it or a spike which popped this filament, or it could have been mechanical damage. So we got to get this board lifted up and see if we can't resolder that back down in there, because right now it lifted probably 1/8 of an inch or more. I might actually have to pull it out and clean it up before I can put it back in there from the looks of it. Let me just double check here. Actually, it might not have lifted. That might have just been the solder, the way the solder was coming off of there. But you know what? Let's be sure. So what do we need to do to get this board lifted up? It does have several jacks along the back side here that come through the back. These jacks here, the key looks like it's going to have a nut removed. These just look like they're poking through, and the forward set knob looks like it's going to have to come off. Looks like everything else will slide out. So I am going to, just because I think that might be set, I'm going to just put a tiny little dot that you can't hardly notice right where the indicator's set. So when I put that knob back on, it'll be right in the same spot it was. All right, let's see here. We're gonna have to get this nut off of here. I don't have the actual tool for that. There's actually a name for those tools. Looks like a little round socket or tool. It's just got 2 or 4 ears on it. This one would take 4 little ears. Gosh, some reason comes to my mind that it'd be called a stuffing wrench. I think that's actually what they're called. I don't have one. So I'm going to use snap ring pliers to see if I can get it out of there. I'm just going to engage the two of the ears if I can. Usually these aren't very tight, and this one's not. Mostly once you get the initial little torque off of it, you can get it to turn, and then usually by then you can just use your fingers to get it off. A lot of these connections on this board look like they come from the front. There are some that are coming from the back. So, like I've mentioned in some other videos, if you're going to start disconnecting things, take a picture. Take several pictures. Make sure you know kind of what's going on. Maybe get a picture of the whole board. Nice thing about doing this with your phone camera is you can zoom in if you need to later on. So get a few angles. This is just in case we go back and we can't figure out where some of those connections are coming from. So that's got our pictures taken. Like I said, with this one right here, we decided was soldered in. This one looks like it's going towards the front. This one's going towards the front, because what I'm hoping to do is I just want to lay this board up. Not necessarily pull it all the way out, just lay it up. Front, these right here look like they're coming from the back. So let's unhook this connector. This one's coming from the back right here. So let's unhook that connector. Like that. This right here, this is coming in from the low pass, is coming from the rear. This one, it comes from the rear, but it runs all the way up here. It's still going to let us have that hinging action, for lack of a better term. Everything else pretty much looks like it's coming from the front. So, what kind of screws do we have? We got Phillips screws. Let me double check here. I want to make sure. exactly what's going on as far as mounting. Looks like we got one here, which is also holding this shield on. That's got these wires underneath it, so that's something we're going to have to remember. Also appears that we will need to unhook this, which has the shield going to it. You can see it's got some thermal paste underneath there, so we probably need to make sure that's going to be nice and good. Got one here. Here's one. There's one here, one here. And I'm not seeing another screw, so it looks like 5. We'll see if that's all. So let's go ahead and pull them out. These have little washers on them. I'm just checking to make sure if they come off. Sometimes screws like this have a nut on there that doesn't come off. These don't appear to come off, so we're pretty safe there. Just grabbing them out with a pair of tweezers. I got a little bit more control on them as they're coming out, because I really do not want to chase them through the whole radio. Okay, this also is the sole thing that's holding this little shield or thing on that routes these wires in, so I'm just going to set it off to the side as well. I'm going to get this one that has the heat sink connected to it just undone. It's a little bit different type of screw, so we should be able to figure out where it goes pretty easily. Let's see if the lighting I can get any better here. I'm not sure if that's making it any easier for y'all to see or not. It's actually got a little more, too much glare, so we'll go back to this. Get this one out. Alright. Looks like the board's moving. It's moving side to side. There's absolutely no way to slide it forward enough to get these jacks out the back. I do need to remove this knob. Wow, that comes off pretty easy. The board is moving, but we got to get some room. The back don't go back, but it looks like the front might slide forward. So I'm just going to loosen these and see what happens. I'll actually take them out. See if the front will slide forward enough. Okay, it looks like I'm going to have to take these screws out of the bottom of the radio that are going into the faceplate. see what that does. Oh, it's sliding forward. We're getting there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if... Oh, we got another wiring connector right here. Still got to get a little more clearance here. Ah, we were catching on that heat shield. Okay, so we're gonna very gently kind of lift this up. There's still something catching. Oh, see, missed another one. I took the guard off of that one. So let's take this connector off. Looks like we're good from there. All right. Things are getting floppy. Just gonna turn this around so y'all can see this on camera. Find something to support it. At least somewhat. Okay. So, our two studs are right here. I believe, let's see here, trying to make sure I got the same two connections. Don't want to start soldering and unsoldering some other stuff. So that right there is that conductor, which means this is the, so it's these two right here, looks like. Right here and right here. Now, it didn't look like it actually slid up. That might have just been the, when I thought it slid up, it might have been the solder just kind of stretching out. So those actually look really good. I don't see any top hatting. I don't see any cracks in the solder. So it looks like those are still good. I definitely wanted to double check that real quick before we put the bulb back in there and found out we had a problem right here. So that being said, I'm just going to put the board back. Get my connectors out of the way. See if we can't get this guy back in here. Oh, one thing I do want to do real quick, since we did pull this loose, this is kind of dry. Where this heat sink compound is. Right here, I'm going to get some isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to clean that off. I'm going to clean the body of the radio off right here, and we'll put some more heat sink compound on there. So let me get a little something to work with here. I'm actually going to get another one because that one's pretty full of compound right now. Finish cleaning this up. And get some thermal compound. As soon as I find it, there it is. Got a decent amount of thermal compound on there. Alright, let's see if we can't get this back in here. Like our face moved back on us, so we'll push that forward. Back here enough to drop it in. Get everything back through their holes on the back, all the jacks. Looks like I'm snagging on something. There we go. And we're back where we're supposed to be. Now, I am going to okay, so let's go ahead and get our screws put back in. For the board. I don't have that one totally tight yet. I'm going to get a couple more in there. Make sure the board's located where it wants to be. There's enough play in there, it might not be off. I don't want to tighten one down and then try to force another screw in a different spot and like basically tweak the board. So I'm just going to get these started. Particularly this middle one. I'm just going to kind of move the board around a little bit, make sure everybody's still going where they want to be. It's happy. go totally nuts on putting this back together. We still got to solder that bulb in there. I just want to do it this way because this makes a nice, steady, sturdy position for soldering the bulb in there. We may want to raise the board back up and double check after we solder the bulb in to see if it's going to, if we've had any change in this right here. And now I'll have to take the screw out again anyhow because we forgot something. So let me get this where I can work on it. We'll get our new bulb over here. And if you'll notice, it's got a lot longer leads on it, so we're going to have to cut them back a little bit. Just kind of get an idea here. Let's stretch one of these out. They actually had it just half wrapped around those posts. So we'll just try to get about the same length. I'm going to go ahead and put just a little half loop on these. Go around those posts. Just use my tweezers. Just pushing it around working it around that post. I'm going to have to do this while I have the soldering iron on. The solder's a bit thick, so I'm going to see if I can't just tack that in there like that. I don't like that. I think we're probably going to pull this board and flip it back over again here in a second. I gotta get this old solder off of here. But this post is actually moving around when I do that, which means it's softening the solder on the other side. Which means we're gonna go back and we're gonna resolder it again. But let me get some of this old solder out of here. So we can start clean. Let me do the same thing to the other post. Okay. Now, when I did that, and I know y'all can't see this on the camera, there was a little flake of solder that flew off, and we do not want to leave that in there. So we're just going to get rid of that. Come in with our new bulb. Alright, let's see if I can get that one side soldered in real quick. I'm just going to wait a moment on this. There's a lot of metal right there that's heated up. I don't want this having a bad solder joint just because I move it too early. I'm not liking this one. Just doesn't seem like it's playing right when I put the solder in there. I really don't like that one. So we're just gonna undo that leg. I think what we might need is a little bit of flux on that. It's almost acting like there might be a little bit of oxidation or something that was in that solder, or maybe on it. So I'm probably going to drop just a touch of flux onto this post. Also going to double check, make sure I got continuity right there. Through that bulb. I want to make sure we haven't overheated it and damaged the bulb. Okay, we're good. So let me get this back on here. Trying to get it wound around that post just a little bit, give it some mechanical strength as well. Like that. And then I'm going to put just a drop of flux on that post. Like that. Clean up my soldering iron. Retin it.
That I like a whole lot better. But I believe we're going to go ahead and re-raise the board up. Those do look like they're wiggling just a little bit, so we might have to
Just do a really quick solder on the other side. Hopefully it doesn't unsolder the bulb in the process. Should have just left the screws out. Let's check this out again. Don't look too bad, but I'm just going to hit them real quick with some solder. Freshen up that solder right there where the pin comes through and is soldered to the board. And I'm also going to put just a bit of flux on the board right there. So this one I can actually almost see a just about actually see a little ring on there where it might have actually broke the solder. And that looks a lot better. Nice and shiny now. Roll my solder up here. Flip the board back over. Our bulb is still appropriately soldered. Let's get this thing back into the case once again. The connectors out of underneath there. Alright, let's put some screws back in.
Excuse the butt end of my screwdriver being right in the camera. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and plug this guy back in. And we're going to remember that little guard this time. Which had these wires running through it, or underneath it. Like that. And it was connected right there like so. Should be the last screw. So they're all snug down. Alright, let's get some connectors back where they belong. This one goes here. I'm going to take a just a fine tool like this and make sure that the individual wires are pushed down as far as possible. Just slides them a little bit more, maybe it cleans off any oxidation on them some. Get this guy. This little coax. Plug back in there. This guy goes right here. We got these two. This one goes kind of tucked up underneath here. Goes right here. So those seem to be seated pretty good. And this guy went right here. That one's a little awkward to get my finger in on. Check and see if we got anything else kind of loose. If there's any plugs that's not plugged in, everything looks good. Now, like that. Just making sure that nothing on here looks like it's going to get messed up when the cover comes down. Everything's going to clear, kind of running down beside where it's supposed to be. We still got to get this screw in. Let's put this one in. This one's the one that goes on the heat sink, or that little tab that's connecting the heat sink of that transistor to the body, or the chassis of the radio. Really highly scientific. That's like, oh, okay. Alright, so that's the stuff put away here. Looks like we're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here for just a moment. I want to clean some of the work area up here. Get the radio flipped back over or propped up or something so we can hear the speaker better, and see if we can't put a signal back into it, same level signal, and see what it sounds like there. So give me just a few moments, a few seconds for you, a few minutes for me. We'll clean some stuff up a little bit, and then we'll be back and test to see if this thing's got some receive. Alright, we're back. Got the workbench cleaned up a little bit. I actually put the cover back on, haven't put screws back in, but got the cover back on the radio. If you'll also notice right here, I got it so that we can see the S meter on this, and we're going to do the test to see if it's receiving better. Now, before we could barely hear the tone, I'm going to actually turn the volume down here before we start this. We could barely hear the tone, and we had no deflection on the S meter. So, fingers crossed, we turn this on, put a S9 signal into it, and we will get a good audible tone, and hopefully at least an S7, S9 deflection on the meter. So let's go ahead and do it. Okay. This is with no. Let me get this everybody centered back up again. So our audio sounds decent. We are on 7 megahertz. I don't think you can see that in the camera. I'll just turn that a little bit. We are on 7 megahertz. And there's our S meter. Sounds like our antenna connection is a little loose, so we'll tighten that up real quick. And let's put an S9 signal into this radio and see what it does. To me, it sounds like it's already hearing better because it's actually hearing, you know, static crashes and whatnot. Well, that already sounds better. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I'm going to get us next to no volume here while I'm setting this up. So negative 73 dBm. We're going to go with a 7 megahertz signal, AM modulation with a 1K tone, and look, we have needle deflection. That's a good sign. Let's go ahead and listen to it. Oh yeah. And it might be down a little on receive. That's S6, S7. But you have no problem hearing that tone now. Upper sideband, pretty much the same thing. CW, CW narrow, and AM. Now, if you remember in the last video, I actually went to AM and could hardly hear the tone in it. It was actually worse than listening to it in sideband. So, and that actually is an S9 signal, which
is probably just dead on because I am in AM, and this is sending out an AM tone. So we do have S9 on the signal, on the S meter. In fact, it is, oh, it is dead on S9. Good tone. And we put the 20, I'm guessing that's going to be a 20 dB attenuator on there. That brings us down to about S5. It's probably about right. And you can even hear it with the amplifier off. It's not moving the signal, the needle, but yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. So let me go ahead and turn this down. I'm going to turn the signal generator off. I'm going to unhook it. Now, in the last video I did some comparisons between two different radios, listening to signals, and you couldn't even hardly hear voices on this. I want to see if we can hear some voices. So I've got a bit of coax hooked up to hook up to it. It's running over to my antenna system. I'm going to do one test real quick here to make sure that we got the antenna system tuned correctly. Because we are going to try 40 meters. Actually, I'm going to see if I can find some voices on 40 meters on my other radio. I'm sure y'all can hear that. So that's on my 430. And then I'm going to go to the same frequency on this radio, and it looks like, oh, just looking from that needle swinging, we've already got something going on where we're at. Lots of noise or something. PSK or something. Oh, let me, oh, there be voices, y'all. I'm going to go to the same frequency as that on the other one. That's 7233. I'm going to do an A-B comparison, just switching the antenna between the two radios. Let me get the volume a little bit closer. And just a little bit of IF shift. Get the tones closer. So, 757. .430. And we are looking at about an S9 on that. I know y'all can't see it. My 430 was showing about an S7 with the guy that was calling, so let's get back to him. So S7, S9, let me go back to the 430. And I'm showing about S7 on him as well. So the radio is definitely hearing now. And it sounds like it's actually hearing pretty good. So let's turn around a little bit. This thing really acts like it's got a pretty good sensitive receiver in it.
Thanks, John. It's Dave in Illinois.
Lots of voices out there on this thing now. You couldn't hear anything before. No voices, no nothing. Except for the one time I was using the screwdriver as to check that bulb. Jumpering that, we could just barely hear WWB. Let's see what we can, if we can hear WWB. Hearing lots of signals. We weren't hearing that before. Down here to 10 meg. Switching between upper sideband and lower sideband. The tone's a little bit different. It could be slightly off frequency. Let's go to AM. S9. It's got some QSB on it, but it's S9. Attenuator on. Still a good signal. This radio's got ears again. So there you are. Yaesu FT-757, deafer than a doornail. I'd be deader than a doornail, but this thing's deafer than Mozart. And we have ears again. So I think this radio is still in good shape, just needs a little bit of cleaning up, and I think it's going to be good to go. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sticking with me on this. We've got the radio back to hearing again. I'll probably go ahead and enclose this bulb with the radio when it goes back to its owner, just in case it ever needs to be changed again. We got one, don't have to hunt for it. So like I said, once again, thanks for going through there and watching getting this FT-757 some ears again. We'll see you sometime down the road. Hopefully have something coming up for too long. See what we got to work on, see what kind of videos I can come up with, but in the meantime, bye for now.